The new One D&D monk is out, and it is wild. This is not what anyone was expecting, because if there's one class that most people agree needs help in D&D, it is the monk. Now, I've defended the monk in the past, but it definitely has problems. It's dealing less damage than other martial classes besides very early in the game. It requires key points to function, but it doesn't get many, especially in the early game. It's hard to multi-class with because every level not in monk lowers your key point total, and its features don't often play well with other classes. The base monk features encourage you to attack at close range, but your AC and hit points are lower than other close range warrior classes. And of course, monk subclasses are generally worse than subclasses that other classes get. So let's keep those problems in mind as we dive into this new monk to really understand how it has failed. But don't fret, there are some good things here too. In fact, there are some things that I think you should use in your games immediately. So let's dive in. Okay, so the first change you'll notice with the monk is that the martial arts die has been upgraded. Kind of. Now, instead of starting at a D4 and climbing to a D10 by level 17, you start at a D6 and climb to a D12. This works out mathematically as 1 average point more damage per attack you make. The downside here is that this only boosts your unarmed strikes now. It does not affect your monk weapon damage. That's because you also get the new weapon mastery feature, which is not amazing or anything, but it's a thing. So you either use simple weapons and get a boost, like being able to reduce a target's speed or maybe knock them prone, or you just use unarmed strikes. This isn't really enough to make monks as good as the other classes. 1 extra damage per attack really won't quite cut it, but I do recommend that you take this change and put it into your monk games right away. It is definitely better. Still, most D&D games finish at around level 11 or so, which means the monk is only really doing 1d6 or 1d8 damage with their unarmed strikes for 90% of the game. Only by level 11 do you get something better than a normal rapier that any other dex-based attacker would be using from level 1. But worse, there is no change to any of the other features at level 1. Monk AC is still really bad compared to other martial characters. A fighter or a barbarian can rock half-plate and a shield for an effortless 19 AC. Monks have to fully invest in both dex and wisdom at level 1 to just get a 16 AC, and then maybe it'll hit 17 at level 4, hit 18 AC by level 8. It's bad. And the monk hit die is still only a D8, which means your hit points are low because your con score is low, because you need to invest in both dexterity and wisdom to have even a tiny chance of dodging attacks. You're squishy. Basically, you are very squishy for someone who wants to be making unarmed strikes. Because here's the thing, and I've tested this theory extensively, but if you punch someone, they will try to punch you back, and that is where the monk crumbles. But hey, maybe the new form of key, discipline points, will fix all of that, right?
Oi, give me your money!
Ah! Why?
I need money to buy me some maps!
But why?
So I can run Dungeons and Dragons game!
No, I mean, why do you need money to buy maps?
Because I care about quality. I want the best maps money can buy!
But you can get over 4,000 maps of spectacular quality from Chepeku.
Oh, you sound just like the last 12 people I killed. No way is that true!
Seriously, shoot me if I'm wrong.
$5 for 4,000 maps?
Chepeku stop an estimated 20,000 murders a year through their sheer convenience. Probably.
Wow, so that nun was telling the truth. I was gonna kill you. Thanks, chap.
More like, thanks, map. Get the best TTRPG maps in existence from Che and Peku. Grab over 4,000 stunningly beautiful maps for just $5. Yes, no cap. 4,000 plus maps for $5. When you sign up on Patreon, you get the full back catalog. Bring your games to life with animated battle maps and Foundry VTT modules. Realize any setting imaginable. Spark your creativity with Che and Peku. You can see all the maps on their website or grab all of them from their Patreon linked below. Every map you'll need forever in beautiful quality. Grab yours today, link in description. So second level monks keep their unarmored movement for extra speed. Flurry of Blows still lets you unarmed strike twice as a bonus action, Patient Defense still lets you dodge as a bonus action, and they both cost 1 disciple point, which is the new name for key. Step of the Wind gets a slight boost. You now both disengage and dash when you spend a key point and a bonus action to use the feature. That is pretty good, except that to keep up with the damage output of other martials, you're probably going to be still better off just using Flurry of Blows every turn in combat. You are rarely going to use that, and I really mean rarely, because the biggest problem is that monks still do not get more resources. You still only have 2 disciple points at this level, and you only get 1 more every time you level up in monk. Sure, they recharge on a short rest, but what this really means is you have 2 turns in combat where you get to be an awesome monk, and then the rest of the day until you take a short rest, you're just a terrible fighter. This is the big change that needs to happen. We need to let monks be monks. They need more ki or discipline or whatever you want to call it. Also, it's kind of weird that they're still tied to short rests, because One D&D's been basically the death of short rests. They redesigned the entire Warlock to get rid of the need for short rests, but monks still rely on them. Keeping the monk, and only the monk, reliant on short rests makes it even less likely that parties are going to short rest often, because who cares apart from the monk? Remember that we need to analyze these classes in the context of D&D 5.5, and that is pretty much a short rest free zone. Now, monks get a feature later on that does help with this, but for now, and for the next 5 levels, you kinda suck. And this is the big problem that we were all hoping One D&D would solve, but they changed pretty much nothing. At 3rd level, you get a slightly upgraded deflect missiles, but it is basically the same. You can catch a ranged weapon and throw it back, dealing 2d6 at this level. They probably should have added your dexterity modifier to the damage, but hey. Everything else is the same until we reach 5th level Stunning Strikes, arguably Monk's most broken feature. Now, Stunning Strikes is only once per turn. Not 1 success per turn, no, only 1 attempt. This is bad. Stunning Strikes targets an enemy's Constitution saving throw, which is super unreliable. You can hear Colby complain about Constitution saving throws in the video we put out yesterday, talking about all the other new classes. The advantage of Stunning Strike before was, okay, enemies will probably pass this save, but I can do it 3 or even 4 times on a turn, burning through all my ki to get off that crucial stunned condition. Now it's only once, so you are very rarely going to see it. This to me feels like overly policing how a monk should play. Stunning Strikes already requires ki to attempt. They're already burning a resource, they can't do it forever. Why artificially limit them again, beyond the fact that they're already spending ki just to try? Empowered Strikes at 6th level now lets you do force damage with your unarmed strikes. I really like that. But the big feature is heightened metabolism. This is it, baby. This is what we're talking about. Once per long rest, you can take a short rest in 1 minute. 1 minute is easy to do. It gets back all your disciple points, lets you roll a few hit dice, and recharges other features. It's not enough to save monks, because they still kind of suck until level 7, and around level 7 is when the key point shortage really started to ease off a little bit. Usually, you would want to take a short rest between combats anyway, so this really lets you take that short rest even if there's an emergency and you don't have time for the full hour. But let's take a moment to explain why key points or discipline points really don't work as a resource in the same way sorcery points do. It comes down to the fact that monks need their key points to function in battle, whereas sorcerers can still kick ass even if they don't have any sorcery points. At level 7, you have 7 disciple points, which might be enough for your monk to do all the monk things in that one encounter. A couple of flurry of blows, a couple of stunning strikes, and a subclass feature, and then the fight's over and you have none left. Then you can short rest and go again. It really kind of works from level 7, 8 onwards. The problem is all the monk levels before that, which is where most people play the game. Getting Having a faster short rest is nice, but even if we gave it to the monks at level 3, it still wouldn't help them burning their key points in the first 2 rounds of combat, because you still can't take a short rest in the middle of combat. Anyway, the next few levels of the monk are mostly the same until we get to level 13, where your deflect missiles is enhanced. You can now deflect missiles of any ranged attack, not only those that deal bludgeoning, slashing, or piercing damage. Honestly, I think monks should get this at level 3. My table has homebrewed it that way for years, and it's always been awesome. It's never been problematic. Remember, at level 13, a wizard can create a duplicate of themselves, or conjure a celestial, or drop a force cage. Monks can throw back 1 Eldritch Blast per round, and it costs a discipline point to do, obviously. Level 14 gives you proficiency in all saving throws. Love that feature, it's the same as the old monk. Level 15 is the old level 20 feature, giving you 4 discipline points if you ever enter combat while you have 0. By this point though, with your 1 minute short rest and your pool of 15 key points, I don't know how often this really comes up. At 18th level, you get Superior Defense, and I gotta say, it is very bold of them to call this Superior Defense when it is clearly worse than the old Empty Body feature, which I loved. That one let you turn invisible for 1 minute, so you had advantage on every attack and you couldn't trigger opportunity attacks, and also you had a resistance to every damage type except Force. This one only gives you the damage resistance, and it costs 3 Disciple points instead of the old one, which cost 4. Remember, wizards are casting Wish at this level. Let the monk turn invisible, come on! Finally, there is Defy Death. It's okay. If you drop to 0 hit points, you can spend some discipline points, roll 4d12, and your hit points change to the total number that you rolled. To do this often, you would need a lot of discipline points, meaning you wouldn't actually be using those points on your monk abilities, but I guess it's okay. Generally though, D&D abilities are better when they are proactive, not reactive. This feature does nothing if you're never dropped to 0, so if that doesn't happen often, it might as well not exist. Okay, so I think we've explained why this monk simply does not do enough. If this was the final monk, I would consider it a failure. But look, sometimes you can have a lackluster class like the Ranger, but it's made pretty decent by some awesome subclasses. So let's take a look at those. Shadow Warrior Monk. This is the Darkness-themed monk. From level 3, you can use 1 discipline point, that's 1/3 of your total at this level, to cast the Darkness spell, and you can see through it when you cast it. Also, at the start of your turn, you can move that area of darkness to another place you can see within 60 feet. This is decent. The downside of darkness is it also impairs your allies as well as your enemies, but you can see through it, and hopefully because you're going to be cloaked by the darkness, you won't be getting hit too often and dropping concentration. At 6th level, you can teleport from an area of dim light or darkness to another area of dim light or darkness. Then you get advantage on the next melee attack you make this turn, which sounds really good, but considering the fact you're going to be cloaked by darkness hopefully most of the time anyway, that advantage might be a bit redundant. At 11th level, the teleport gets better. You can now spend 1 disciple point to teleport even if you're not cloaked by dim light or darkness, and when you teleport to a location, you can immediately make 1 unarmed strike. I really like it. By level 11, you have plenty of discipline points, and you use your first turn's action to set up the darkness, bonus action teleport into it, and attack an enemy immediately at advantage. Finally, at level 17, you can use 3 discipline points to turn invisible while you're in dim light or darkness. You can move through creatures and objects as though they were difficult terrain, and using your flurry of blows no longer requires you to spend a discipline point. I think this one's pretty meh, to be honest, because you're going to be effectively invisible in the darkness you conjure anyway, moving through creatures is fine, and reducing the cost of Flurry of Blows doesn't really matter at level 17 because you've got so many discipline points. Then we get the 4 Elements Monk, which was, until now, probably the worst monk subclass in the game. The big 3rd level feature is you can use 1 discipline point at the start of your turn, no action required apparently, to surround yourself with elemental energy for 10 minutes, giving you some benefits. Your unarmed strikes can deal elemental damage, your reach is 10 feet greater than normal, that's really good, and anytime you hit a creature with an elemental unarmed strike, you can force them to make a strength save or move them 10 feet towards or away from you. This movement isn't once per turn, and if you're a DM and you're thinking having to make potentially 4 strength saves every single turn sounds like a pain, you're right. This is a really powerful, cool feature that is going to make turns extremely slow. I love it because you can lift a creature 10 feet in the air with this, then they'll fall to earth, land prone, take an extra d6 damage. Honestly, it might actually be a bit busted, and that is what monks need. We need subclasses to be a little bit unfair for the monks if their base class is going to be this weak. I just think that the constant rolling of strength saves on every single attack you make is going to be a bit too much housekeeping. The rest is okay. Level 6 you get an AoE for 2 discipline points, and at level 11 you can fly or swim for 10 minutes as a bonus action and a discipline point. Genie Warlocks can fly from level 7 without any discipline points, but you know, whatever. Finally, at level 17, you resist 1 elemental damage type that you can change at the start of each turn, you deal 1d12 extra damage each turn, and you get Destructive Stride. This is basically a Shardland Stride the spell, letting you dash past a bunch of enemies and deal damage as you move past them. If released as is, this would probably be the best monk subclass. It's also a long way from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is what I think most people are looking for when they pick the 4 elements monk, but if that is what you want, don't worry, I'm actually working on an element bender class right now that does all the awesome Avatar things. This is a good subclass, and stay tuned for an actual Avatar class coming soon. Finally, we have the Open Hand monk. From 3rd level, when you hit a creature with your Flurry of Blows, you can force them to make a saving throw. If they fail a con save, they can't take reactions. If they fail a strength save, they get pushed 15 feet away. If they fail a dex save, they fall prone. The prone one is probably the best because most enemies likely have worse dexterity than they do strength or constitution. At 6th level, you get Wholeness of Body to heal yourself. The old version required an action to cast, and it healed for 3 times your monk level, so it scaled really nicely. The new version costs 1 bonus action and gets you back 1 roll of your martial arts dice. I don't know which is better, they're both pretty mid. And we can't afford mid. We need the monk subclasses to be straight fire, or the base subclass needs to be made more powerful. At 11th level, you can use your Step of the Wind without using any disciple points. Unfortunately, your 3rd level feature works with Flurry of Blows, so that's the one you're going to be wanting to use every turn in combat, which makes this kind of pointless, I guess. Still, it does give you a movement speed of 120 feet a turn outside of combat, which is pretty fun. Finally, we get Quivering Palm, the iconic badass final feature. And it's sadly quite a lot worse now. Before, if a creature failed a saving throw against your Quivering Palm, they died. They fell straight to 0 hit points. If they succeeded the save, they still took 10d10 necrotic damage. Now it just deals 10d12 plus your monk level damage, or half as much on a successful save. It's okay damage, but it's definitely worse. Again, wizards are casting Wish. Bards are shape-changing into adult gold dragons. Let the monk do the death punch. The One D&D monk just isn't enough. I like the new Shadow and 4 elements monk. I like some of the Open Hand monk. I like the faster short rests. The improved martial arts damage dice are fine, but without the discipline points to back up the key features, this is still a weak class. It's got low AC, low hit points, and barely any room for feats or multi-class. This feels like a missed opportunity to me. I think Monk was the one class that people were really down to say, yeah, tear it apart, go wild, see what you can come up with, but they didn't really change all that much. Of course, if you want to see my fixes for the monk, I did an entire update to the class in the DM's secret weapon. I did the entire barbarian and the champion fighter as well, issues 15, 16, and 17. You can grab any individual issues from my website, dndshorts.com, or join on Patreon to get the newest issue every month and the last 3 issues completely for free. Remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, I'll see you next time.